Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. So, one of the best fights I think in boxing is going to take place on Saturday night. It's something that I've been looking forward to literally for months since it was first mooted. Savannah Marshall against Claressa Shields. We already know a lot about these ladies. Two elite women's fighters, terrific fighters. I mean, just very, very contrasted. There's nothing similar about them, not in character, not in style. They look different at different dimensions. I mean, this is a really terrific matchup. And of course, it's for the undisputed middleweight title. So all the marbles, who's going to win? We'll get to that later. But I do think that it's probably the only concern I have is that I'm looking forward to it so much. That when you look forward to these fights, occasionally you're disappointed because they don't quite, turn out to be as great as you hope they would be. But that aside, let's assume that we're all, that I'm not just the only one that says this, but a lot of us are right that these stars are going to gel incredibly well, and we're going to have ourselves a fight to remember, a real sort of legacy fight for women's boxing. So we know a lot about Claressa Shields. She's 12-0, 2 KOs, not a very high percentage. It seems like she's been around forever, like 12 fights. That's all she's had, but the quality of the opposition has been absolutely excellent. Her first fight was against Franchon Cruz-Dezurn, is that her name? Who is currently the undisputed super middleweight champion, and she fought her in her debut. And it was a 4 2-minute rounds, 8 minutes to get your work done, not much at all. And supposedly Shields, supposedly Shields whitewashed Dezurn, and I didn't have it like that at all. I had it a draw. I remember thinking this other woman's good because Claressa had all the bells and whistles, turning pro thing. But Dezurn, I thought, she's really good as well, and I made it a draw, 2 rounds each. But they gave it to Claressa, who's the big paycheck for them all. In no way was it a 40-36 fight. All 3 judges had it like that. I didn't agree at all. But, on went Claressa, and in her 5th fight, she fought Tori Nelson. And the 6th fight was she outpointed Tori Nelson. Again, another whitewash, 10 rounds, that one was. Then she fought Hannah Gabriels and got floored for the only time of her career. And in case you weren't aware, Hannah Gabriels, probably a bigger woman than Claressa, she is a bigger woman than Claressa physically, but she is currently the WBC light heavyweight and heavyweight champion. So she's gone on to win belts herself. Again, we had 10-round decision. Claressa won most of the rounds. There has never been a fight where Claressa hasn't won the majority of the rounds, and she's got quite a few whitewashes on her record. She fought Hannah Rankin, who at the time was only 5 wins and 2 defeats, so inexperienced, but Hannah went over there. She went the distance. And again, another whitewash, but again, I thought Hannah won a couple of rounds. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Then it was Femke Hermans, and then we come to a very, very interesting fight, which I'm going to talk more of later. That was the one against the German girl, Christina Hammer. And I think I made that 98-92 when I watched it live. I think the judges had it roughly the same. But again, that was considered a 50-50 fight. Christina was 24-0 going in and 10 KOs. And she held world titles for about 10 years. I mean, she's very much an established champ. But Claressa dealt with her. And since then, we've had... the last fight was against Emma Kozin, undefeated, 21-0-1, I think she was, and she, I don't think she won a round on any of the cards either. So Claressa has really dominated the division. She's twice been undisputed champ at super welterweight and middleweight before, and if she beats Savannah Marshall on Saturday, she will be a 3-time undisputed champ at 2 different weights. Hell of an achievement. Let's move over to Savannah. She is also 12-0, no draws, and 10 KOs, and that is her signature attribute, if you like. She is a hard puncher. The quality of the opposition has been far less than Claressa Shields. However, when she's fought mutual opponents, she's knocked them out. She did Femke Hermans in 3 rounds, knocked her flat. very picturesque highlight reel knockout. She stopped Hannah ranking in, was it 7 or 8? I can't remember offhand. I think it was 7. So clearly the power is with Marshall, even though the quality of the opposition has been lower. Now, there was an interesting fight against an African lady called Lolita Musea, I think her name was. Undefeated fighter, 16-0 going in. Now, Musea put it on Savannah from the word go. She absolutely tore after her and was, it was like it was a one-round fight. Completely shot her bolt, tried to ambush Savannah. And to be honest with you, she had some success. There were punches that were landing, and a lot of the work was being smothered, and she was smothering her own work in some respects. And Savannah was able to ride out that little sort of mini storm. It wasn't a crisis at all, but she rode it out. Went back to the corner. Peter Fury said a few words to her, and then she dealt with Musea in the second round. Musea was shot, just completely. She used up all her energy in one round. A rather stupid tactic, but maybe she was just talk about gambling everything, gambling everything on one number. So yeah, but it was interesting to see how how Savannah dealt with that early storm, that sort of instant ambush. Physically, Savannah is, I think, 3.5, 4 inches taller than Shields. If she's not 6 foot, she's damn close to it. Big Amazonian physique, very, very big for the weight. And Shields smaller, 5'8", I think she is. She's got she's more stocky. Stylistically, Shields. Now this is interesting because Shields can straighten her punches, and she has a pretty good jab when she uses it, but I don't think she's ever used it really enough. She probably hasn't had to, because a lot of these girls, because Shields is physically very strong, she can just walk in the front door without, unannounced, and put it on these girls. Against Hammer, and Hammer is another tall, nearly 6 foot girl, not as physically imposing as Savannah Marshall, not as tough, and not as big. The bone density doesn't look as big, but she did have the dimensions over Shields. And in the first round, she won that round. You can argue that Shields sort of took it off and was having a look at her, but I thought Hammer used her long range boxing ability very, very well in that first round. But from then on, Shields was able to sort of. By the way, Shields defensively is extremely good at slipping punches, slipping and sliding, and against Hammer we saw that in abundance, where Hammer was firing combinations and nothing was landing because Shields was just slipping it with her hands like low. That's a dangerous game to play against Savannah Marshall. You get clipped full-bloodedly once, and you're probably going to end up on the floor if you're not knocked out. So against Hammer, again, similar dimensions to Savannah Marshall, but nowhere near the power, nowhere near the physical strength. Once Claressa started timing Hammer and getting in close, it became instantly evident that Hammer had absolutely no up-close game, no inside game at all. Savannah Marshall, it's kind of different. I haven't seen a great deal of evidence that Savannah is a good inside fighter. Struggling to think of an occasion when she's really been tested in that area. But ideally, Savannah will want to keep it quite long like Hammer did. But Claressa against Hammer, and she'll need to do this against Savannah, even though she started by being very conservative with her punch output, she nevertheless picked it up as the rounds went on. And in the 8th round, she absolutely ragdolled Hammer. The Hammer didn't have an answer. She was lost at sea, and she managed to go the distance, but clearly lost. Like I say, I think I hit 98, 92 if memory serves. Now with Savannah, although they are of a similar physique, Claressa, again, that's a dangerous game to play. That, low punch output early on, rely on your instincts to get your reactions to get yourself out of the way of punches that are coming on strong. And then try and find a way and try and control the range, try and offset the opponent's rhythm like she did with Hammer. Hammer didn't get any kind of rhythm going. Claressa's going to have to do the same with Savannah, because if Savannah does get into a rhythm, then it's going to be bad news for Shields. Savannah, loose of the shoulders, has a loose, sort of languid appearance about her. Fights very much like the Peter Fury trained Hughie Fury, obviously his son, and when Tyson Fury was trained by Peter Fury. A very sort of, she moves her feet quite a bit. She doesn't really plant her feet. With punches, you expect them to plant their feet and really, really bang. But she does like to move around a little bit. She's not static, she's not stationary. And I think that if you look at Savannah's previous fights, she likes to use the opponent's strength and power and weight against them. What do I mean by that? Well, when the opponent comes in, Savannah likes to catch him. And I think Shields will have to be very cautious of that, because if Shields mustn't get frustrated, she's going to have to get the timing right. She's going to have to offset the rhythm, but she can't just walk in the front door like she's used to doing because she's physically stronger. She is not physically stronger, or not much physically stronger, if at all, than Savannah Marshall. Savannah Marshall is a big Amazonian woman, and she will get hold of Shields, and she'll be able to match it with physical strength. So I think the fight for Shields to win will have to be turn ugly. It will have to be a case of, like I say, you break up the opponent's rhythm, you get in close, you maul, you punch to whatever's available. I've seen very, very little body work from Claressa Shields during her career. I've seen, if not all of her fights, I've seen most of them. I suppose you could say the same with Marshall as well. Although Marshall, if memory serves, Marshall was landing some good body punches against Hannah Rankin. And I don't think either of these ladies should neglect the body. They should go to the body, definitely. With regard to Savannah Marshall finding her rhythm, I think that is the key. Shields is regarded as being faster. Now, Shields is quicker, I'll give you that, but of course timing can negate speed. The example I always think of in all the fights I've seen is Vernon Forrest against Shane Mosley, because Mosley was freakishly fast, Mildred Taylor sort of speed with the hands, and Vernon Forrest weren't bothered. He just kept the jab going, timed him well, knocked him down twice in their first fight, and won a landslide decision. I see no reason at all why Savannah Marshall can't do the same thing. No reason at all. It's up to Shields to fight a sort of stop-start staccato fight, quite an ugly fight. Shields also, one of her flaws, I think this is quite a considerable flaw that often gets overlooked, is that yes, she can fire straight punches, no problem, but when she's on the offensive and when she's got the bit between her teeth, she tends to fire very wide punches. And they are fast, and the speed sometimes negates the fact that they're taking the scenic route and they're not coming straight down, down the centre. But I think if she does that against Savannah, she'll get found out. I really, really do. I don't think, I don't think that's going to work against Savannah, even with the speed. I think that it's certainly true to say that Claressa Shields has very, very little power. I don't think she can hurt Savannah at all. You get hit in the face, it's got your attention, but it's not like being stung or really hurt. And don't forget, Shields doesn't only not score knockouts, or very rarely scores. She's only got 2 out of 12. But she doesn't score knockdowns. She's just got no real power to speak of. So she's going to have to outwork Marshall, and it is possible that could happen. But at the same time, I don't see it really happening. I think Marshall will control her, even if there are. Don't get me wrong. I expect Shields to win a few rounds. But I don't think she'll be. I think Marshall will be able to find enough room to punch. I don't think Shields will be able to effectively smother Savannah's work. It could, if it becomes a maul fest, then no one's picking up points. No one's winning the rounds, as far as I'm concerned. And it goes to whoever's been, the more proactive. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe Shields is only 27. I think Marshall's 32. Am I got that right? Is Marshall in her 30s? I think she is. Anyway, she's the older woman. But let's talk a little bit about their temperaments, because I think that's important. there's no doubt that Marshall, although Marshall is the only woman to beat Claressa Shields in the boxing ring, amateur or pro, she did underachieve badly as an amateur, and she said, I didn't want to be there, I didn't want to fight. I went to the Olympics, I went out the first day. Shields has picked up on this and has been saying, you let your country down, and trying to get under her skin and everything. I think Marshall dislikes Shields more than she lets on, and really wants to beat her up more than she lets on. Claressa Shields, braggadocio, total braggart, talks endless amount of trash talk, carries her belts around everywhere, every photo opportunity, the belts and the gold medals. I mean, she probably sleeps with these things. She probably takes a shit wearing these belts. Do you know what I mean? She can't go anywhere without these damn belts. You know what I mean? Whereas Marshall's far more reserved. But as an amateur, there's no doubt that you can make a strong case for having choked in certain fights and during certain events. If those demons come back to haunt her, obviously that will be to Shields' advantage. But I don't think they will. I think the years of working with Peter Fury in that totally stripped down, no-nonsense way, which as far as I'm concerned, is the best way for any fighter to train. No bells and whistles, no frills. I think that this psychologically, mentally, I talked about this in a previous video I did a few days ago when they did The Gloves Are Off. I think this has worked to Savannah Marshall's benefit tremendously. And I think she's now a mature, rational, reasonable woman who thinks logically because of the Peter Fury influence. And the fact is now that Marshall she's honed her skills, her physical skills, but mentally she's on an even keel. Now that's not to say that Shields hasn't got under her skin more than Savannah lets on. And clearly Savannah has got under Claressa's skin, very much so, because she hasn't been reverent, because she doesn't openly say, wow, she's so wonderful. And people who have this colossal ego and who have a bullying mentality, which is what Claressa essentially has, they love to have smoke blown up their ass. And I don't think that Savannah Marshall is going to ever do that to anyone. Certainly Peter Fury wouldn't. And that's why Shields is very irate and dislikes Marshall a lot. But I think it's two-way traffic. I think Marshall dislikes her too. I think that they will all come out in the ring. What they're feeling inside will come out in the ring. So, prediction time. What do I think? Well, when this fight was first announced, and like I say, I've been looking forward to this fight a lot, I thought there's only one winner, and that's Savannah Marshall. And since then, I've been thinking about it. I know a lot of people are picking Shields to outpoint Marshall, to outwork her, to time her, to be too fast. I don't agree. That's certainly possible. It could happen. But I'm going to stick with my original prediction. I think Savannah Marshall will win this fight. And I'm quite confident in that. Not absolutely. I can see scenarios where Shields could win. But I'm sticking with my original gut instinct, which was that Marshall wins this fight quite convincingly. Not to say it's going to be easy. There's a difference between being straightforward and being easy. The question is she going to knock her out? Now, if this was over 12 3-minute rounds, I would be very confident and say, yes, Savannah Marshall will knock out Claressa Shields. But it isn't. It's over 10 2-minute rounds, 20 minutes of boxing, which, as I always say when I do these women's videos, it's only 2 minutes more than a men's 6-rounder. So I think that Marshall will... Is she going to knock her out? 2 minutes is difficult. It's difficult scoring those rounds because if you've got a 3-minute round and you're not sure who's won, you can think back and think, okay, so-and-so won the first minute, so-and-so won the second minute, so-and-so won the third minute, I'll give it to that person. You can't do that with 2-minute rounds. So-and-so wins the first minute, so-and-so wins the second minute, it's even. Could go either way. 2 minutes... No question about it. 2-minute rounds are the reason why we don't see more knockouts in women's boxing. And it's just not enough time to get your work done within that 2 minutes, because very often you'll hurt the girl and then she'll survive and then she'll, you have to pick up where you left off. But the fact that Marshall does have 10 KOs in 12 fights, she has got that one punch knockout power. I'll stick my neck out and I'll say that I think Marshall will win by stoppage. I'm not absolutely confident. I definitely think she'll win the fight. I'm definitely picking Marshall. By stoppage, I'll go for the stoppage between rounds 6 and 8. 6, 7, 8, those rounds. I'll pick 6. If you want a specific round, I'll go with the 6th round. I just think she's going to catch Savannah. She's going to catch Claressa, knock her down, might knock her out, but at the same time, the referee will step in and stop the fight. I don't think Shields can hurt Marshall at all, not physically. And I think that's why she's been giving it large psychologically, because she wants to try and test Savannah and try and beat her another way, try and beat her psychologically. I don't know that's going to happen. Not now. 5 years ago, yeah, but not now. This fight, it seems to me, is coming for the right time at the 31, 32-year-old Savannah, whatever she is. She's a mature woman now, and I think she wins this fight. And I'll go for the knockout. I'll say 6th-round knockout. So what do you think? What is your opinion? Great fight, really great fight. I'm really, really looking forward to this one. Leave your comments below. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the like button. Much love to you. Keep punching. This is a great fight. I'm really looking forward to this one. And thanks as always for your time. We will speak again soon. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Much love. Bye for now.